It's go time.
It's go time.
It's not slow time.
We found our drummer, everyone. We did find the drummer. Good news.
I was right where you left me.
Norton? Yeah. What? Where did they leave you?
In the green room.
Okay, I got nothing.
I know. Yeah, I know. We'll talk about it.
Norton, we'll talk about it with HR.
Auditions are still on though.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are so fired up to have this next guest. She's started coming to shows recently. I've known her forever. We've all loved her forever. Put your hands together and wave those fingers in the air for Shoshannah Stern! Yay!
Hey!
I'm hugging her again. Come on, Mike, get in there. All right, the stage belongs, yeah. You get the microphone. You guys can swap and share. Or do you want you want a second microphone? Okay. All right. Bye. Enjoy.
Bye. How is everyone doing? Yay! Are you guys so happy to be here? I'm happy to be here. Yes. Okay, I'm so happy to be here. I see my picture over there on the wall. It's over there. I always try to find it. I can see myself. Hi, Sel. Thank you guys so much for having me back with you. This is the second of my 4 stops this year on this tour, and so I'm so excited to be here again. And we have interpreters here, over there. Yay! I met some deaf friends. And I did see a lot of you guys using sign language. And so, yeah, make sure that you go and chat. Go and talk with some of those people and make them feel welcome. Thank you. Are we getting started? Over there or over there? Whoever's ready.
Hi, I love you. Thank you for being here. I wanted to ask about the Marlee Matlin movie. I have always been inspired by her. I've loved her since I was younger, and I was just wondering how you thought about the movie and how you decided to create the movie and produce it.
Okay, so some of you maybe are like, wait, why, what, where, who? And so 3 years ago, I started directing, and I directed my first feature documentary, and that was my first project ever. And some of you might not realize that Supernatural had a lot to do with that documentary, because Richard, he allowed me to shadow him when he was working and when he was directing on the last season. And it's really hard to find someone who will let you shadow them, especially as a deaf person, because it adds more crew, you have to have an interpreter and all those things. And so I had asked so many people if I could shadow them, and everyone said no, except Richard. And he was like, oh yeah, hell yeah. And so that's the connection that we have there. So that was my first project, the Marlee documentary. And I found out that most of the times with celebrity docs, usually the director will ask the subject and approach them saying, hey, can I make a film about you? But with the documentary that I did, a lot of things were really starting from scratch, and we did everything different and kind of rebuilt the form of documentary. So it's a different type of documentary, and including how it was made. Because what I found was with PBS, our documentary is on PBS, and I think you should be able to find it there. If not, I think you can rent it on Amazon. And if not, it should be free on Canopy. Okay, that's where you can find the documentary. PBS had approached Marlee and was wanting to do a documentary on her. And Marley said, that's fine on one condition. You must have a deaf female director. And PBS was like, oh, do you know someone? And Marley was like, I have one name, and it was me. And so, yes, it was wild. It was really wild. But they had approached me, PBS, and I really didn't know that it was Marley's idea, and thank God. I didn't know until later, but I thought, oh, I just felt right away that I knew how I wanted to approach her story, and I knew what moments I wanted to include, and I just felt like I had a way in. It was just a very clear image to me. And so whenever I had pitched to them my idea, I really was very thorough and very clear. I had a clear vision. And I didn't know that I was the only person up for the job at the time. But I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Sorry, I'm slow. I'm still learning to sign. In the past, Supernatural.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm blind and I can't see you. I think I'm losing my vision. You keep going. I'm gonna look at the interpreter and try to look at you at the same time.
Okay, it's dark. In the past, Supernatural.
Well, and I think I'm getting older and I don't have my glasses on.
It's used disability as a plot device, kind of like Bobby and Pamela in the wheelchair and being blind. And with you as Eileen, being deaf was not a disability. You died and revived, and they didn't fix it because it wasn't a problem. And was that ever a consideration or a discussion? Because I'm hard of hearing, I'm still learning, but that's so affirming to see it used on TV, not as a plot device, but just as a description of a person rather than a problem to be solved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Eileen is a really special character to me. And not just because I'm fortunate enough to play her, but also how she's represented on so many different levels. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys know more about the show than I do, but I don't think the word deaf was ever said on the show in relation to her character. I don't think so, right? Because if anyone knows, tell me, but I don't think so. I've just never seen that before anywhere. And I think, maybe people have to be careful and they don't say something to the deaf person in that way. But I thought I'd only seen like a couple conversations, like maybe when she wasn't there, maybe not in her episode, or even like joking, ever. I didn't see that. And so I think it's just the DNA of the show. And, I think with the two leads too, with Jared and Jensen, they're very easy to work with and they care and they're accommodating. And so I think it was just very natural. It was a very natural process. And I feel like the real Eileen, she is the baby of Robbie Thompson, and Robbie was an amazing writer, and I didn't know until later, but he created that role for me. And we had worked together on Jericho many years before, and whenever he was the writing assistant there, and so he had just had this idea and reached out, and he's like, hey, would you be interested in playing Hunter? And I thought, yeah. And then we collaborated. He wrote it, but there was so many conversations that I'd had with him before and during the show and like while the episode was being written, and he just really got it as a writer, and he was really excited to listen. And there's some other writers that have said, hey, let's collaborate, and then they're like, no, I don't actually want to work with you, you know? But he was just very inspired by the conversations we'd had, and that motivated him to like do better in a way. And I think because he did such a great job with his first episode, it made it easier for the other writers later too to continue on with just how Eileen was and who she was and how people talked to her and how they talked with her and even about her.
Hi. I think that sign language is a really beautiful language, and I love to see it on screen, and so I loved seeing Sam learn for Eileen, and I thought that was very in character. But I personally felt like I could have benefited from seeing a little bit more sign and maybe hearing a little less from Sam speaking, and I was wondering if that was ever something that you wanted during that process.
Yeah, that is one thing that I did try to just, give my 2 cents every once in a while. Different actors have different comfort levels, and some actors really don't want to learn or don't feel comfortable with new things, but Jared was very interested and he really wanted to sign. And it just depends on the director of the week too. Some are better than others. And there was one director who really did not want to see sign language at all and felt like it interfered with the vision. And both Jared and Jensen were like, no, I'm signing this. And so that was impressive. But it's a careful line to walk because I wasn't producing, I wasn't directing, I was just acting on the show, and I was invited like as a guest actor, and so I wasn't a regular, and so I just had to be really careful. I don't ever want to step on anybody's toes. But I was lucky that Jared, especially because he had signed the most with Eileen, he really wanted to learn. And yeah, that's really nice, and I think that's why we saw as much signing as we did. And I think that it was slow too. In the beginning it was little bit by little bit, and then Eileen moves in and lives with them, and then it kind of makes sense with the story that people would sign a little bit more as time went on. And of course I wanted to see more of Eileen in general, and all of them using sign language together. If they would have lived in Parker, for sure, that would have been so beautiful. Like, what a nice vision. But at the time that we had, I do think that we did pretty well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Elena, and I wanted to ask, what's your favorite episode of Supernatural?
That I was in, or in general?
In general.
In general, Baby. Yeah, that's a great episode. From the POV in the car. I just love it. It's so smart. And Robbie wrote that one too, right? Mm-hmm. Robbie's the best.
Oh, you're ready for me. I'm sorry.
I'm ready for you. Whenever you're ready.
You're probably aware of the final scene in the finale where Jared is seen with a presumably wife standing on a porch, and it's just kind of hazy in the background. So we don't really know who that person is. And there's a lot of speculation that it's Eileen. A lot of people like to think it's Eileen. I don't know if you're even aware of that or not, but what are your thoughts? Would Eileen end up with Sam in that final thing, and with the little son running around?
With the blurry wife. Yeah, the blurry wife scene. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the blurry wife. Yes. I haven't talked about this until this year because the showrunner, Andrew Dabb, came out and said, yes, it is supposed to be Eileen in his mind. But I do think it was supposed to be Eileen, because I was supposed to go back to the show twice, and once for the finale with everyone else, and then COVID hit, and then they said that they had to rewrite everything, and then I didn't hear after that. So of course COVID impacted so many things, and a lot of things happened, and that COVID impacted me on Grey's too. And like I was supposed to go back to Grey's, but then they had to change the whole storyline because of COVID. So I just was like, I don't know if that was still the plan or would Eileen come back, but they did ask to shoot me in LA. And I didn't know what it was gonna be for. I really had no idea. But I was thinking, wow, how are they would hire new crew in LA? I don't know, I never got the script. But then they said, oh, sorry, it's not gonna work out. And I totally understood at the time. So I don't know if that script was the same as what actually came out. But if it did come out, there was only one reason, why they would have filmed me in LA. I mean, unless I'm missing something. But I look at it and I do think that. I think they just left it up to the audience to interpret. Like if they think that it's Eileen or if they think it's someone else. Because people do have feelings about it. Strong feelings, it seems, when it comes to the blurry wife. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys.
Well, I think it's Eileen, so thank you.
Me too.
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi.
Before I ask my question, I wanted to say I'm 50% deaf and I wanted to learn sign language, but I also have cerebral palsy and I couldn't learn it. But
You could.
But my question was, how did it feel to finally have a character with deafness and the ability to sign language in the show?
I loved it. I have played other characters before, fortunately, and some of them did sign and some of them didn't. And I do feel most comfortable using sign language, and I feel like I can act better whenever I'm not having to worry about if I'm putting emphasis on the right syllable, or if my R's are clear. I hate R's. And so I always feel like that's what I'm thinking about if I'm voicing for myself. And then like when I see myself on screen talking, I can just see in my eyes that I'm thinking about how to speak. And I would rather, like, instead of just acting and feeling out what the character feels. But because with Supernatural, they never rushed me, and they always gave me just a little extra time that I needed, and they were very collaborative too. And so even some of the scripts, depending on the director, they would sit down with me and say, hey, this word's gonna be hard for you to say, and I would say, can we replace it? And they would say, sure. Or, if there were some words that I wanted to sign, they were definitely willing to do that. They were very collaborative on that show.
Thank you for answering my question.
And I did grow up with a lot of deaf people who do have CP as well, who have cerebral palsy. And it is just a different way of signing, just like how I sound a little bit different when I talk. And so, yeah, it doesn't mean it's wrong. If you have to sign it a little bit different, it'll just be your way. And so if you do want to sign, you definitely still can.
Okay, thank you, and I will try and learn sign language one day.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Gina. I had the privilege of doing your meet and greet upstairs. I didn't know if I was too far to sign myself, so I'm signing, but
my eyes.
we're very far, and so no problem. I just wanted to ask you, so as I mentioned before, I work with little deaf students. I work with a lot of younger children. Any words of advice or words of wisdom for just children in general who want to become actors or actresses, and also for those who are deaf and hard of hearing, like any words of encouragement, because I know of language barriers and certain things like that, like how to push through and really, go for what they want regardless.
I'm a mom, and my daughter is not deaf, but I think the most important thing you can do is the most important thing you can allow any child to do is make mistakes. And I think as a deaf child growing up, people are always like, oh, you have to be really careful. Like, hey, good job, you're doing really great. And even when I sucked, people would tell me I did great, And so I think you have to let them learn that mistakes are how they learn. And that's what my daughter always says to me. She's like, Mom, and I say, okay, so what you're saying is you made a mistake. And my daughter's like, yes. And then I say, and she'll say, mistakes are how you learn. And I'm like, great, that's great. And so what is the lesson? There is a lesson in making mistakes, and I think it's important to always allow any child, whether they're deaf or not, to make mistakes. And even if they don't have the opportunity to make mistakes, then they won't grow. And so I do think that's really important. And I think it's also important to have more actors and more actresses who are deaf, for sure, but we also need deaf people in every field in the world. And so I would encourage them to do whatever they want to do. I mean, it's easy to see someone like me and be like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be like you. I totally understand. That's how I started acting too. But then when I started acting, I realized, oh, I've never seen a deaf writer. Oh, I've never seen a deaf director. Or I got to play a deaf doctor. And there are deaf doctors out there, but I had never met them. And so it's really important for deaf children to go after jobs that they haven't seen deaf people do before. And so just ask them, what do you want to do? And then encourage them to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm a mother myself, and I feel like your advice about letting the child make the mistake, I tend to correct right away, and I think that was just really good advice that I need to take myself. So thank you for that. And thank you for also sharing, because as I'm an educational interpreter myself, so I just want what's best for the students, and I always encourage them to just, go for what they want. We had a deaf student join chorus, and the teacher said he could sign, he could sing, he could do both. There was one song that was in another language. She just let him use an instrument. He loved that idea. So we had him signing and singing. One of the songs was Voice Off, another one he sang, and that just opened up his whole world. I think he said, I could join chorus, I can sing, and that wasn't even a profession. That was just being part of something that other hearing children were part of. So thank you so much for being an inspiration.
Of course. And it is going to be different. It is going to be different. If a deaf person does something, it's always going to be different. But just like I was telling them, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And, people think there's only one way to do something, and I don't think that's good for any of us. I think we can adapt, and we can see if something looks a little bit different, that might end up benefiting all of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Timur, and my question is, what's your favorite character in Supernatural except you?
Except me? Come on, why am I not even allowed to pick myself? Are you very short over there, or are you a child?
I'm 9.
How old are you?
9.
9. Okay, thank you so much for getting up and asking me a question. That's a really big deal. Okay, my favorite character. Are you sure I can't pick myself?
Yes.
Okay, I would pick Rowena. Who's your favorite character? It's me, right? You're gonna pick me.
My favorite character is probably Castiel.
Yeah, Castiel's a great character. I really wanted him to sign. Because he does know all languages. It's nice to meet you. Are you thinking of another question?
No.
Okay, no.
I
If
just
you think
forgot-
of another question, let me know.
I just forgot English for a second.
What? I do that too when I'm signing.
Hi, I am a fan from Brazil and we love you so much. Thank you for being here. I have a question, I wrote it down because I'm gonna forget for sure. So, how has your personal experience of supernatural conventions changed since the show ended? And how it feel for you to still see the fans coming together after all these years?
It's really beautiful. And I was just talking about this in my meet and greet. Really, I didn't know what cons were like before I started the show. And I was like, oh, Supernatural. Like I watched the show. I did watch it before. I think I watched season 1, season 2. And then one of my friends told me, oh my gosh, they have cons. And I was like, you mean they like trick people? Like cons, like they trick people? Like what are you talking about? And she's like, conventions. And I thought, what? Just for Supernatural? And she said, yes, absolutely. I thought, what? Wow. And then the fans started reaching out to me before my first con because of access. And it's a little bit difficult. But when they had first invited me to a con, there were no problems. And I think it's really important to bring cons to the front. You know, like if you see access in the front, it will spread to the back. You know what I mean? Are you guys following me? So like every time they ask me to come to a con, I'm like, oh, that's great, because that means that they believe in access. Here we go, we have an interpreter right here. And we have some over there. I mean, there's like 4 interpreters in my meet and greet. And so the more that they're exposed to access and accessibility, then it does become a part of fan culture. And I have noticed a lot of fans like have disabilities as well. And I think there's a reason why. And so I just, every time I've come to a con, I don't know, it's almost like for a greater purpose. A little bit, you know, it's not just about my character on Supernatural, which was amazing, but also to be able to show in real life how access works, which has been really awesome. It's really important to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Duncan. My question is, if you didn't go audition for Eileen, who would you audition as in the Supernatural?
Sam.
I could see it.
Right? I do feel like Eileen is like the female version of Sam a little bit. Like, that's what Robbie said whenever he was writing Eileen, as a female, kind of a mirror image to Sam. And so a lot of things those two characters do have in common. And I'm a little bit shorter, but
I don't think the height would matter. I could still see the sound.
yes, yes. Yeah, a very short Sam.
Hi, my name is Finn. I was just wondering, what was your favorite part of working on the show of Supernatural?
I think the character of Eileen and being as collaborative as I was with the writer, that was amazing. But also just like the energy on set, like making friends with people that I had never worked with before. or even worked with in the same set. It's just a really beautiful cast, a very special cast. They're all very precious, very supportive, and they've really become a huge part of my life.
Thanks for answering.
Thank you for asking.
Hi. You played a pretty tough woman in Jericho, but you played a badass in Supernatural. So how did you feel about doing the stunts?
How'd you feel about what?
Doing the stunts?
I loved it. I love stunts. I think it's like, I'm gonna get deep for a minute, but I feel like it's physical communicating, right? And so I'm used to communicating with my body, and I really loved stunts because it's just like a way for the character to communicate something without words. And one thing that I'm very proud of is on Supernatural, they often will say, oh, she doesn't need a double. She doesn't need that, the double can sit down. And so most of the stuff that you see Eileen doing on the show is actually me. Yeah, I really loved stunts. And I think deaf people do, like, to be able to kick ass. I feel like most people think deaf people can't do that. And so that was just like, every time I got to do a stunt or if I got to shoot something, whatever it was, I was like, yes, I loved it. I felt like that's really important. And not just for me, but it's also important for the world to see that deaf people can.
Thank you.
Hi, my question was, did you have any ideas of where you wanted your character to go? And did the writers write it differently, where you were like, no, I had an idea about this?
I'm a writer myself, and maybe some of you might not know, but I ended up writing on Echo, which was for Marvel. And if I'm in the writer's room, then yes, I can like create plot and give feedback, but even in a writer's room, they do have very clear storylines, and you contribute what you can to that line. And so I never said here, no, I don't want Eileen to do that, or no, Eileen shouldn't go there. I think they would have fired me if I did that, and that's not a good look. But I did say like, how Eileen communicates, how she responds to anything. It just depended on the writer that we were working with, like the writer and the director, because we did have different ones every episode, so kind of just depending on their level of collaboration. But yeah, it was more about how she would respond to a situation, and like the situation itself would kind of remain the same, like the core part of the story, but how she might react to it or how she might communicate, we were very collaborative with that.
Hi, Shoshannah. One of the reasons that I watched Echo was because you were one of the writers, so I'm glad you mentioned that. My question is, what are you working on currently, or what is the next project that you're excited about?
I just directed my first feature documentary, and that was really cool for me because I could change the form. Like, we could show how captions are placed on the screen differently and like what color the captions are depending on the people that are speaking, and how the screen itself gets set up, if the space can be moving or not. And so that was really exciting to me. And I realized that writing has been really great for me so far, but you kind of still have to accommodate to a form. Like, oh, it's a 60-minute show, or it's going to be a 30-minute show, and so you have to fit in that time, so you can't really change that expression. And so I loved like fucking things up. And so I feel like I can fuck things up with documentary. And so I do have like 2 documentaries in development right now, but development can be a very long process, but that's what I'm working on right now.
Hello, Shoshannah. So nice to meet you. My name is Erin. I wanted to first just congratulate you on your work on This Close. Bringing up Echo reminded me of that show. I remember when that show was airing and hearing about all of the just kind of like groundbreaking firsts that you did, and just kind of a through line from this panel, I think the access that you're bringing on and off screen, and then the representation that's bringing to viewers is so important, and just like you being in the room is elevating that. So I was curious like how that whole show, like what that process was like, reflecting on it now. And I mean, I imagine it's impacted all of these projects going forward quite a lot.
Are you talking about This Close?
Yes.
Yes. This Close was really just showed up at the right time and was in the right place. I really honestly don't see it getting made nowadays. I don't. I think that like that year that This Close came out, I think it had there were 300 or 370 new shows that had also come out that year. And now I feel like not that many shows come out a year. It's really not that many anymore. And so I'm just very lucky that it did come out when it did. And I wrote every episode, except for one. And then my writing partner wrote his standalone episode by himself, and then I wrote my standalone by myself. And so really, it was just the two of us in a writer's room, and that was it. And I don't see that happening nowadays either. Unless you're Tyler Sheridan, then he can do that. And so for me, yes, I was dropped in the deep end and becoming a showrunner and writing and acting, and my daughter was very young at the time too. And so looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, girl, what were you thinking? But yeah, it definitely taught me how to stretch myself, and also taught me how to learn to stop myself as well. And I don't have to do it all. And there's no one person that should. And you can't just change the whole world by yourself. You can't change the system. And so yeah, that's what I still take away and use on my other projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
Okay, I'm going to interpret for her. So, my name is Ezzy. I'm so excited to see you here, another deaf actress. Really, it's so inspirational. Very, very nervous, but I'm so happy to see you here. I'm just wondering, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do in your spare time? I mean, I really love writing poetry. What are some things that you enjoy doing?
You are calling me out right now because I did have a moment where I was like, I have a younger daughter, and I'm always trying to write. Like, writing used to be my hobby, but now I do writing for work, and I don't write so much for myself anymore. And I did just recently cry with my husband. I was like, I don't have any hobbies at all. I need one. And so if you guys have any suggestions, I'm open. You can let me know.
I don't have a lot of hobbies as well. I have 2 kids right now, and I understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to see my friends, trying to catch up on seeing my friends. So any free time I have, I'm like, oh, I need to meet a friend for coffee. And so my hobby is talking, I guess. And drinking coffee. Thank you guys, another round of applause.
By the way, I'm going to tell you, that's the healthiest hobby I have ever heard of. Good for you.
What's your hobby?
Rob?
Something very unhealthy?
Making fun of Rob.
Yes, making fun of Rob. Although that's also my career.
Doing drugs, is that what it is? No,
Well,
I'm just kidding.
The band does a lot of drugs.
No, you never would.
You know the band does a lot of drugs backstage, but I think that's a known secret. You know what I mean?
Yeah, band life.
Yeah,
You're
band
doing
life. You stay on the coffee side of things.
Okay. I think I can just do coffee. Tea?
Perfect.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, it brings me such joy to have her. Let's be sure she's back more because she is a wonderful human being. It's Shoshannah's turn, everybody.
Thank you guys.